This is my 4th time at Generation W, and I like to tell Donna that she had me in the first minutes of my first conference, right? I have been, I'm sure many of you as well, have been to a lot of conferences. A lot of them you just sit there, you know, your eyes start to close, your head nods a little bit. I've never been to a conference with so much soul and passion and energy and heart as this one. And I hope you will feel the same way at the end of the day, but I'm thinking you already feel that way already, right? Yeah. I have always thought that if I ever write a book, it's on my bucket list, I'd like to write a book someday. I guess most of us have that feeling. I thought, though, if I ever did write a book about my career, I would title it Bridging the Gap. So I thought, okay, I'll make the title of my little conversation here, Bridging the Gap. Because if you know New York City, that bridge is the Brooklyn Bridge. It connects Brooklyn to Manhattan. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn to a single mom. My dad was not around, and that's a long story that we won't get into today. But we didn't have a lot of money, tough finances, and so I was working pretty much as soon as I could, babysitting jobs, as soon as I had working papers. And during my summers in college, when a lot of my friends were traveling on great trips or going to their summer camps where they went to summer camp to work as a counselor, I was on the D train from Brooklyn to Manhattan, working any job I could, filing, answering phones, typing, whatever it could take. But on the D train, out the window, you can see the Brooklyn Bridge as you go by. And it always symbolized to me this gap between where I was coming from, a very small working class community in Brooklyn. I was the first in my family to go away to college, the first in my family who would graduate from a 4-year college. When I went to college, I thought everyone was going to be like me, right? Didn't know anybody, really friendly, really outgoing. And I found that a lot of people knew each other from teen tours or summer camp. I met my first mean girl my freshman year of college. So it wasn't as welcoming, and I always felt a little different. And so that bridge from Brooklyn to Manhattan represented the dream, making it, finding what you can do and living your passions. And so this concept of bridging the gap has really been consistent and a real theme throughout my life. I knew I didn't want to have any regrets. I didn't want to wake up at the age I am now of 51 and say, should've, could've, would've. Why didn't I go for that dream of being a reporter? So I sent out my resume tape. I got a lot of, do you remember Miriam's conversation earlier with all those letters, the cover letters, and the rejections? I got so many rejections. I can't even count them. I saved them all, though, because they're fun to read over time. I know, on a Friday night, you have nothing to do. Read your rejection letters. It does make you feel better when you've gotten the job to say, hey, life's not so bad. But I knew I just needed one job offer, and I got it. It was to be a local news reporter in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I had been to Albuquerque once with my college friend, Abby, who I slept on her couch with. I mean, we basically ate fajitas and drank rum and Diet Cokes. That's the most I remember about my time in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So here I am, leaving Washington, leaving that boyfriend, I might add. Had to go for my dream, got in my car. I didn't have air conditioning, which is an important part of the story because I am going to New Mexico. And I didn't have a working radio in my car. And I know to you college students, you can't even imagine this. I had no Spotify, I had no iPhone. I drove cross country and I started to live my dream. So there I am. Don't I look so... I'm here, I'm in local news, I'm so excited. My first day, I planned my first day to be a little bit like your first day of school. You know, you get your notebooks, you sharpen your pencils, and you meet your friends, and hi, I'm Kelly, I'm the new reporter. Well, this weekend before, the Saturday before my first day of work, Albuquerque had the biggest mass murder in the city's history. 5 people killed as part of a robbery of a video store. So on my first day of work, talk about being thrown into it right away, I was doing what I still believe is the hardest thing a reporter can do, and that is talk to families who lost loved ones to murder, to tragedy, to the unthinkable. My second day of work was going to be my first live shot. And I think what's so important to say is, you know how Miriam mentioned it earlier today about go for it? Too often, I think, and especially women, we don't go for things because we think, I don't know if I could do it. Donna mentioned it this morning. Maybe I'm not the best. Maybe I'm not qualified. Where the man will say, oh yeah, I can do it and I'll figure it out as I go along. With reporting, I had never been a live television news reporter, right? I had produced, but I had never been on TV live before. I had never written with that deadline of time. So my second day of work was my first live shot, and I think after that I thought, well, if I can do that, right? If I can manage that, I think this is going to be great. And it was. I loved that job. I consider that really the biggest risk I ever took in my career. And in fact, I got a job at Fox News Channel, and the bureau chief hired me to be a State Department reporter and producer, and she said, before every live appearance, you need to spend time in hair and makeup. That is important. That is part of the job. And I matured, and I learned that that was part of the experience. So I do think that it may play a different role in different industries, but at some point you have to be willing to compromise and also never giving up. I covered the White House, and I will tell you this. The first, asking a president a question is one of the scariest and most exciting things I think you can ever do as a journalist. And it was quick. It was a couple of months into my job at CNN. I was asking at the news conference, it was then President Clinton, a question. I kid you not, my heart was beating so rapidly, and my microphone was right here, I was convinced the viewers at home had to hear it going ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And then I remember President Bush, who he had nicknames for everybody. I'm sort of embarrassed to tell you his nickname for me. Remember, I'm a hard-charging reporter, right? Right? Keep that in mind. His nickname for me was Sweet Kelly. So it's not very good for the resume when you're trying to be at 60 Minutes. But when President Bush, I remember at a news conference, he actually said my name, Kelly. I thought, oh my God, remember that Bridging the Gap? Remember that gal from Brooklyn, New York, small town, working class family? The President of the United States knows my name and has asked me a question, and I'm going to question him. It was a very big moment. So I've had a wonderful time. Oh, thank you. When you face a fork in the road, don't be afraid to take the riskier path, and don't be afraid to fail. Because you know what happened? I said no to CNN. I hired a part-time babysitter to take care of Hattie. I worked the phones. I got my laptop out. And in 3 months, I had 2 job offers. One to anchor at Bloomberg, and the other to be a correspondent at the CBS Evening News and the morning show. And because I really did have this dream of wanting to experience life as a broadcast news correspondent, I chose the path of CBS. And I just sort of looked back and I thought, wow, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I was afraid, and look what happened. So again, don't be afraid to take the risk, and look what happens now. Now I am finding an opportunity that I was seeking out in my career. I go to CBS. I have a 9-month-old at the time. 3 months into my CBS career, I'm pregnant. Yeah, oh yeah, I saw that. Because guess what the bosses must have been doing behind closed doors? Oh, we didn't want that. They couldn't say that, of course, and I was thrilled. It wasn't totally planned, but when you have your first child at 39 and you get ready and get pregnant at 40, you feel very lucky and blessed. But that changed everything. So, 18 months in, or 9 months into CBS, I have an 18-month-old and an infant, and when the phone rings and they want to send me to Chicago or Boston or wherever, I hang up the phone every day when they call, and I'm in tears. And my husband says, but Kelly, you're going to be on the CBS Evening News. You're going to be seen by 6 million people. And I said, I don't care. All I know is I'm not going to see my kids for 5 days, 4 days. So I quickly learned, I describe it like being a pilot, but not wanting to fly airplanes. It's sort of a problem, right? So I knew now I had to figure out my next plan. I did want to anchor, though, at CBS because I also enjoyed that. It was live, it was flexing new muscles, and I also thought it would be a more set schedule, right? If you know you're anchoring the morning show, you know you're not necessarily on a plane to St. Louis. But they were not interested in me. I didn't get the opportunities. I was sort of pissed about it, to be frank with you, but I was like, come on, really? But anyway, but then I decided, you know what, let me go try to, quote, anchor somewhere else. I was very interested in motherhood and working women and work and leadership and work-life balance. And I got very interested in digital. I think I was late to the party, but this was around 2008, 2009. Twitter was really taking off. I was using it as a tool to connect with women, and there were so many amazing women I was connecting with. So I thought, okay, I want to try to anchor. I want to focus on digital, I want to focus on women and work-life balance and motherhood. So I targeted all the companies I could think of, including one which is called iVillage. Anyone remember iVillage? Some people shaking their head, yeah. It was one of the first women's lifestyle digital platforms, started in the mid to late 1990s. And it was a great opportunity there. I was going to host video shows. I was our chief correspondent. I was going to start working with sales marketing, so flexing some other muscles. But I remember when I was leaving, people said, "You're leaving CBS News for what? iVillage?" Like they just thought I was making the biggest career mistake in my life. And I think what I like to tell you here too is it's not where you are, it's what you're doing. And so at iVillage, I was able to do the things I wanted to do, and I was able to really let my passions guide my reinvention, right? Here I was reinventing myself, doing something different, and going with what I'm passionate about. And this is the final thing, is paying it forward, right? Make time to help other women, which is what we're all doing here, because when other women benefit, we all succeed. So I'm still, just like many of you in this room, I'm still trying to bridge that gap. I'm trying to figure out what is my next step. I'm trying to go from my passions. I'm trying to, live my life to the fullest. And I'm also going to live my life in a way where I have no regrets. And I hope you'll indulge me because it'll motivate me, but maybe it'll motivate all of you if when I count to 3, if we can all say together, no regrets. Okay, you ready? I got everybody here? All right. 1, 2, 3. No regrets. Thank you so much. So great to be with you.